Good evening, everybody. It is still Friday, June 29th, 2018, 9:47 p.m. Late video, but I really want you to see these temperatures here to basically let you know that we are in the middle of this heat wave we spoke about yesterday. 102, 90s, all these pinks you see, that is very, very hot weather. Now it is finally making its way to the northeast. It is totally bombarding the Central Plains under the Great Lakes, just as we talked about yesterday. And it's not going to end anytime soon. We do, though, have some relief on its way. We have a string of thunderstorms that, no joke, comes all the way down from the border of Canada, all the way down to the tip of Texas, which we will talk about. That is going to be the front that pushes this heat wave out and eventually going to bring saturation to the area, as well as we've been talking about the saturation that will be brought to the Gulf for the holiday weekend, plus another named storm in the Pacific we will talk about, Tropical Storm Emilia, and then right after that we have Fabio to look forward to in the Pacific. So the Pacific is on fire right now. We have two giant waves coming off the west coast of Africa to possibly form Atlantic cyclones, so we have a lot to talk about right now. We're going to try to jump through it quickly. First off, Pacific side, here is Emilia. We are at 50 knots, 60 mile per hour sustained winds, 997 as our pressure, and moving at about 9 knots, so 10 miles per hour, not too fast, but it does look like it's going to work its way up and then out, kind of avoiding land, which is a good thing. We all know that we have swoops that come down in this direction. Those shear winds could catch this thing up and may either break it up or it could push it this way. We don't know yet, but then here we go. This is 90%, guys, so chances are this will be Tropical Depression Fabio. So we are at letter F already after our May beginning to the Pacific hurricane season. For those of you that are expecting a light season in the Atlantic Ocean, we need to remember something here, guys. August was the beginning of that 10 hurricane stretch, so we are still a month and a half away from those prime time examples of what the conditions need to be like to perform our storms here. So Hurricane Harvey was in August, and then after that we had Irma, and then 10 consecutive hurricanes. So just because we have not seen tropical storms or tropical depressions yet does not mean in any way, shape, or form that we are going to have a light hurricane season, although that is what we would like. Less hurricanes, less damage, less stress. You know, of course, a lot of channels base their info on storms like this, but I'm the type of person that would rather not see a hurricane form, and if it does form, of course I'm here to report it to you. I may sound excited because I am just very interested in weather, so just try to separate those two. I don't want hurricanes, I don't want destruction, I do not want people displaced or spending money, but just the weather is the most interesting thing that we have on this planet as far as learning, and you know, that's just how my mentality works, and I know a lot of you agree with me on that. So as we move on, here is that string of thunderstorms we are talking about. Very cool fronts moving west to east, as always, with our jet stream formation and the shear winds. This will be clearing out this heat wave eventually. It's going to take a bit, but we are not the only ones dealing with a heat wave. Now, I want you to look at this article. First, the U.S. is here. The Ring of Fire. Now, my girlfriend just pointed out the Johnny Cash song, which was pretty clever of her, even though the Ring of Fire is that big circle that surrounds the Pacific Ocean where we have all of our volcanoes that go off, and they call it the Ring of Fire, you know, rightfully so. So we have our jet stream way up by the border of Canada, and what that's doing is allowing a lot of the Caribbean air to flow right up into the U.S. It's coming from two different directions. It's coming from the Baja region of the Pacific Ocean, and it's also coming straight up from the Caribbean through the Gulf, which is exactly what's going to saturate this area for the 4th of July weekend. As you can see here, more pop-up thunderstorms. This is over the next couple days. Summer storms, jet streams high, very, very hot temperatures right in this area. That includes basically the middle of Pennsylvania all the way down to Virginia. West Virginia's covered. We got Delaware in there. We got all sorts of states that are just going to be sweltering heat. It's already very muggy. And you can see these cloud animations they have. Those are where those spotty storms are. So we do have these storms forming. They are going to produce cold fronts. That's going to push this heat wave out. So that is a good thing. Once again, here's our county website. You can see this entire heat wave has shifted from basically the north side of Texas. It has now moved itself over. These purple colors mean that it is getting worse. So if we come down to this chart here and we look at the purple, excessive heat warnings, okay? So those are very important to look out for, because this is where you get the heat stroke, the staying hydrated is the most important thing, and then those orange colors you see are either severe thunderstorms, but that is not the same color. The color we're looking at is this darker orange, heat advisories. So you could tell that it is really moving its way to the northeast. It's going to be very muggy in the northeast, like exactly what we talked about in our last video. We have heat warnings and serious advisories in the west northern parts of New York. And then eventually this entire area is just going to cover the Carolinas, West Virginia, you name it, Tennessee, Kentucky. Just be prepared. It's going to be a hot few days, but then again, we will be followed by moisture, so it's just one thing after another. So, with that said, here are the areas to watch right now for our thunderstorms. Even though that line came down here where this green line is here, we can line that up once again with our, let's get there, there we go. This string of storms right here is exactly what's causing the Storm Prediction Center, which for some reason just decided to stop working. You know, stuff happens. But again, you see this dip down here, even though this is the wind option, categorical shows that string of thunderstorms, the heaviest being over the northern central plains, which would eventually dip over the Great Lakes. And then, like I said, this is another heat warning up in New York. So we need to keep an eye on this stuff, guys. And we can see right here where it originates. As we back up, we had a very significant storm move over just north of Iowa, over the Canadian border, right over the Great Lakes. Lots of moisture, big storm right there. And as that starts to dip down into the northeast, we start seeing this string of storms come up from the Baja region of Mexico, coming from the Pacific Ocean, and also being fueled from moisture coming down from Canada. So we're going to have this giant wall of just front cooler temperature storms moving across the country. Some will break up as they hit higher heat down in this area, but then it's going to whip up into the northeast, causing lots of saturation, muggy heat, just the way it goes this time of year. So, alright, with that said, guys, I want to talk about a few other things. We have two waves we need to keep an eye on. One of them we've been watching for 2 days now. I remember showing you this as this began to barrel roll. It did stop that little bit of a roll there, but as you can see, as it's getting towards this northern area of South America here, it does begin to show a little bit of a tumble. Now, this wave right here is the one we want to watch for 4th of July. This thing is coming right up. It'll probably shoot the gap or at least cover Cuba and Cancun and come up into the Gulf and saturate a significant amount of the coastal areas in the Gulf for 4th of July weekend, unfortunately. Nothing we can do about it except just, you know, make do with what you got. I mean, you know how weather goes. And also, with that said, we are going to take a look at the possibility of these storms. So you can see in the far bottom right here, we had that hurricane that we've been talking about that is making its way more towards the west area of the Pacific Ocean. Now, the one underneath there is the more significant one. That is the one that we are going to show you on Ventu Sky, which is right here. Now, we're talking 100-mile-per-hour winds, which is a very significant storm. We zoom out a little bit here to get an idea of not only the Pacific region that we're watching with these hurricanes, but we're also watching that wave. And there's the wave right there. Just because you do not see rotation going on with this, the fact that this big green blob is here shows that the moisture is there. And not only that, but we have a situation going on with the sand. Now, there is sand that is making its way from the west coast of Africa that has crossed the entire Atlantic Ocean through the Leeward Islands, now into the Caribbean and up into the Gulf. So believe it or not, guys, this sand produces molecules in the atmosphere that allows storms to attach to each other. This is a theory that a lot of scientists believe in. It's the reason why a lot of scientists believe we had such an active year last year. Because of the dry conditions in South Africa, those storms will come off, but then they get mixed with molecules of sand. And believe it or not, that's what causes it aids in these storms clinging together and becoming tropical depressions. And as they become tropical depressions here, that gives them a good 2,000 to 3,000 miles to form. And once you start seeing that sand moving all the way to the southern Caribbean and up into the Gulf, you know that what's coming next, guys, because August was the beginning of our major hurricane season last year. We are still in the month of June. We are about to be in July, so we still have a full month before we really need to buckle down and understand that we could be dealing with another string of storms just like that. So these articles that are coming out saying it's going to be a weak season, there's no way of telling that, because right now when this sand moving this way, that is showing me completely otherwise, and the shear winds are not that strong right now, so they would do minimal ripping apart of these storms if they do form. So that's as of right now. That may change, as we could have a hurricane moving through the Leeward Islands. Those shear winds could pick up and rip it right apart before we even see it. So, but the fact that this sand has made it this far, that is a very, very significant thing to watch. It follows that exact belt we talk about on a daily basis, that warm water belt, and this is the exact path those hurricanes take. So we need to watch that. And again, the Pacific Ocean is on fire right now, just tropical depression after tropical depression after tropical depression. So we have a lot of action going on in this region of the country, or the world rather, and it's just a matter of time before it makes it into the Caribbean. So as much as I would not like to say, oh yes, let's get pumped up for hurricanes, it's more than likely going to be the situation we're going to be dealing with come late July, early August. So you know, not such great news, but, you know, this is just the way our seasons work right now. This is the way the cycles work for the United States especially. Now, once again, as you look at this, we could look at the live lightning. A lot of action going on. These are powerful storms, very, very electric. A lot of moisture involved in these, which is producing those cold fronts. That's going to push across to wipe out that that heat that we're dealing with, that we will be dealing with for the next 5 days, at least through the 4th of July weekend into the 7th, which would be that following weekend. Now, I know I'm 750 meters up, but we're talking 107 mile per hour winds. You could drop this down and you're still in the 90s there. This is a very significant hurricane if it does form, category 3 to 4 possibly. Again, though, chances are it's going to move out into the Pacific Ocean, not really affecting land, but the fact that the Pacific is producing storms like this is something we need to keep in mind, because all it takes is one different wind shift and we are coming right up to hometown cities such as Los Angeles, Phoenix, stuff of that nature. It's been a long time since a hurricane made it up to Southern California, but with this amount of action going on and another 3 to 4 months of it to look forward to, you know, you got to keep your mind open to this stuff. And for those of you that are weather buffs, you know very well that that could mean, you know, a lot of action for this part of the country. Hopefully not, but this is just what we're looking at. This is the data we have available. You could see these flows are getting a lot quicker. These lines are beginning to move very quickly, 40 mile per hour, pretty consistent as it shoots across the Leeward Islands, just under Santo Domingo and the Dominican Republic, just underneath Cuba, and then you start seeing that little bend up into the Gulf, and that's what's dangerous, because if these hurricanes start forming, they're going to come this way, and they're going to get pulled up into this gap here, and it often does that. It often wants to shoot right through that gap. It doesn't want to clip Cancun, doesn't want to clip Cuba unless it comes in this way. Then there's more of a chance of it hitting Cuba, or at least getting disrupted by the Bahama regions or South Florida. But when they come up underneath here, that's when they can have that timing to turn into significant storms. So regardless, there's going to be saturation in the Gulf Coast that we need to watch out for, and that's going to unfortunately be over the 4th of July weekend. So With that said, guys, just want to get this out to you. 90% chance of our second storm forming. That would be Fabio. We got Emilia, which is already formed, which will be a hurricane, in my opinion, within the next 24 hours. And then it's time to check out for the Atlantic Ocean, which has currently no invest. That will change quickly. Alright, so I think we covered everything here. Let's see if we got ourselves organized. Usually we don't, but we get through it, don't we? That's the second frame, or the last frame rather. And you can see it with your own eyes. There's that strip of storms we are actually looking forward to. For those of you in the middle of these storms, some of these may be pretty intense. High winds, hail, tornadoes, you name it. Especially when this row gets past Louisiana and we start moving up the Ohio River Valley. That is when the tornado percentages are going to start skyrocketing. And again, we had tornadoes in Pittsburgh as early as last night. Big storms last night as we were sleeping here in Philly, just north of Philly. So, guys, weather changes. We go through cycles, even cycles that human beings may never have even experienced. So we can't just rely on the fact that we have summer, winter, spring, and fall. There are much bigger cycles than that, like cycles that last hundreds of years that some people don't see the end or beginning of throughout a lifetime. So weather's a very complex thing, which is why it changes every day, which is why we have to do daily updates just to stay on top of it. But the main concern right now, in my mind, besides the heat wave going on and people without AC, are these two waves making their way through the Leeward Islands up into the Gulf. So we could be dealing with a fiery Pacific Ocean just as the Atlantic Ocean decides to fire up as well, because in my opinion it's just a matter of time. The conditions are right. We're starting to see these very, very defined shark fin waves coming off of the west coast of Africa, and those are those signs, guys. Remember last year we saw this, and then the next thing you know, you see an Irma making its way over Leeward Islands and Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, and then it's anyone's guess from there. So with that said, guys, that is the video for tonight. If anything significant happens in the meantime, you know I will be right here to talk to you about it. And that's it for now. Check this out, guys. This is going to be a pretty significant storm in the Pacific. They will be talking about this, but don't get caught off guard because the Atlantic Ocean will be next. Mark my words. All right, everyone. I hope you have a great evening. It is 10:03 p.m. on June 29th, 2018. I will talk to you early tomorrow morning. Thank you all for listening. Have a great night. Bye-bye.